So here is the driver's perspective of Flying Tigers, and I'm just going to quickly kind of go over a few of the things here that you see, what they are, and that kind of stuff. So first thing here, just a few things about safety. You can see that the car is heavily equipped with roll cage everywhere, all around it, in the back, on the sides, and everything. You also notice that the cage has this foam padding on it in multiple places, and of course that's just to basically, in case your arm happens to flail around or whatnot, you're not hitting steel bar, you're hitting some cushioning. So everything is about safety, 6-point seat harness and that kind of thing. There are other things in here like this net and other things that protect the driver, and one of them is of course this tank over here, which is an AFFF fire tank, which is activated by this handle. Now it's in a safe mode at the moment, so it won't go off, but that handle is what fires that up. This is a battery disconnect. This basically disconnects the battery electrically from the rest of the car. That's a safety fire feature as well. So then the rest of the car here basically is pretty similar. You'll see that you've got the normal gauges you would expect: water temperature and oil pressure. RPM gauge is up front. We don't care about speed. We just care about going as fast as we can, regardless of what that is. So you want to know what the RPM though is. And this right here is a shift light. We use that to let us know when to shift visually, so that in the heat of the battle you may not be noticing that engine note, and so that light is just sort of a very bright light to let you know, hey, the engine's getting close to RPM. One thing is different here, you may not see otherwise, is this knob actually controls the shift point, so we can set it at different RPM. We typically shift about 6,500 RPM, even though our actual red line is around 7,200 RPM, and that's just to kind of save the engine, because we do endurance racing, we do lots of long races. We try to, that few hundred RPM will help the engine last a little bit longer, is the idea. One thing you might notice down here on the pedals is this gas pedal has got kind of some extra stuff on it, and real wide. That's because in racing, one of the things a race car driver does is, as you're downshift or slowing and braking into a corner, you downshift to get the car into the appropriate gear to accelerate the corner as fast as it can. And so there's a technique called heel and toeing, and this pedal is designed to allow us help make that easier. You're braking with this foot, and then you're blipping the throttle with the heel of that foot, the same foot of course, and that allows you to blip that throttle and get the RPM up to the point it should be as you pull it into a lower gear, so when you let it out the engine doesn't over rev. Or the car lock up and spin around because the RPM is too low. Other than that, it's pretty much normal stuff. You've got a bunch of switches here that control various things. This is a timer. We typically run an hour and 41-minute stint, and we talk to the driver through this radio to let him know, hey, your stint's about to end, it's time to come into the pit. But if this is working for whatever reason, he can just simply watch this clock and know, hey, an hour and 41 is almost here, it's time to come in. This is a TrackMate. This is a 3-axis accelerometer, the little box that controls it. The actual accelerometer chip is down here, and this basically, this box, what it does is it has a GPS attached to it, as well as the accelerometer, and it allows us to look at the time through corners, the g-forces through corners, the speeds we're reaching, all kind of things like that. So it allows us to coach ourselves and try and become better drivers. Really useful tool right here. This little placard you see here is an outline of the track with the corner numbers on it, and that's just so that the driver, in the heat of the battle, if he kind of needs to radio in, I'm in such and such a pit, he can just glance, or corner number, he can simply glance at this. I'm in turn 10, I'm in turn 13, or whatever the case may be. So that track outline is very helpful too. Air fuel ratio mixture, or mixture ratio. Just a quick way of visually diagnosing how the engine's running. Do we need to make any adjustments, throttle body, any of that kind of thing. Other than that, pretty much just the normal stuff. The ignition switch here just turns on all the fuel pump and ignition modules and those kind of things, and you got your start button. So that's pretty much it. Now, one thing you probably noticed is that there's no steering wheel, and that's because most race cars are equipped with a removable steering wheel to make it easier to get in and out of the car, and so it snaps into position. It's got a couple controls as well. This one is just pushed, is the communications. Pressing that allows me to talk to the pits through the radio, and of course without it being pressed I can hear them. This interrupts the headlight circuit, So at night, if we're coming up on a driver that's a lot slower than us, we just flash that a few times to let them know they can see in their mirror, hey, he's coming fast, get out of his way. And that brings up the mirror. You may notice that it's really wide, much wider than you typically would see a mirror, and that's because you want a real good view out to the side. You notice the mirror is curved so that you can see off to the sides a whole lot better than typical. I really love this mirror. I wish I could put that in my regular vehicles because it really gives you a beautiful, beautiful panoramic view of what's behind you. This little bucket back here is where a thermos bottle goes with ice water. There's a tube that comes out of it, goes to the driver, and allows him to hydrate. The driver's got that. He's got this cool suit. These tubes are basically goes to the cool suit, a little tank over here filled with ice water that pumps ice water through this into a shirt that the driver's wearing underneath his race suit with capillary tubes, and that water is pumped through those tubes and it cools your core temperature off and really makes it a tolerable place to be in the race car here when you're in this thing for long periods of time. So that's a tour of the Tiger.